Our last guest had a harrowing experience, and this guest is no different. Today's podcaster that we'll be talking to is Adam Bruderly. Now, Adam changed from make as much money as possible to make as much life as possible due to an event that many of us remember vividly, which was September 11th, 2001. We're going to talk about what his experience was in Tower Number 2 and what he's done since. Stay tuned. Adam, thanks for joining. I'm excited. So you're sitting on that side because you were just sitting there and you may as well stay there. So you're still sitting on the host side, but you're not hosting this one. I'm going to host this one and you get to answer the questions now. Is this feeling weird yet?
No, it feels better. With less pressure.
So much less pressure. So you guys kind of go through, you talk about your story of 9/11 on your podcast. I'm going to make sure the link to that is in the show notes. I want to brush on it, though, because it's important. We don't necessarily need to go through the whole thing, but I want to give people some background with it. So you started out like many young men, myself included, money, title, gimme. That sounds about right?
Yeah. I was a finance and economics major, or finance major, economics minor in college.
So, and you were working for who then?
I came out in 2001.
Okay.
So if anyone remembers, that was the dot-com bubble era.
Oh, yeah.
So I was an intern at Morgan Stanley. To be honest, graduated not 100% sure what I wanted to do, but I had served a time there. So enjoyed investments, this idea of financial advice, stocks, bonds, right? It all correlated to money. And so, again, not knowing what you want to do, coming out in that era, that job sounded good.
It sounded like a good way to put money in your pockets, enjoy New York City. And you referred to also, we kind of briefly mentioned this, you were having as much fun, and you even put fun in quotes in your answer. You were having as much fun as you could. Now, is it safe to assume that this was, and I'm going to use a more modern term here, was this like finance bro culture?
Yeah, yes and no. Went to college, 18 to 21. Is our college time frame.
Yep.
My birthday is in August, at the end of August every year. So I was pretty young for my freshman year. So on top of both being young and that time frame, probably immature to a certain extent. Got to college, right? Got a taste of freedom, played some sports, but, enjoyed myself. I probably wasn't, the strongest academically, liked to have fun, had a wonderful group of friends. And what I mean by fun when I kind of sent that is that type of fun carried into as I exited college.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So
it's tough to outgrow.
Yeah, very much so.
If you can pull that off, that's sure.
Exactly. And I kind of kept that behavior. So, my life now is distinctly different, as it should be, than that life then. And I think we'll probably dive into why, but 100% was, hey, why are you still out at 2, 3, 4 in the morning?
When you have to be at work at 7.
Yeah, 2 days before 9/11 was a Sunday because it was a Tuesday when it happened. I went out to watch football, right? NFL football at like 11 o'clock. And to be honest, I think I got home at 4.
You've changed those habits a little bit. So getting home at 4 now is you're getting up at 4.
Yeah.
That's changed a little bit. The other thing that I was just thinking about here too is I believe that in this podcast, we're going to have the deep voice competition.
Okay.
Just to see who has the deep NPR voices, to see who does that. Everyone's either going to be really into this or asleep shortly after this. So 9/11, you're walking down 40-something flights of stairs. You were on what, the 40s?
Well, I worked on 61, and I was in the 40s, I believe, when Tower 2 was hit.
Okay. And you were in Tower 2, correct? What did that feel like? I don't even know the right question to ask there. I mean, what is the building's got to do something.
Yeah. Tower 2 was the second one to get hit, first one to fall. So working on 61 at the time in a training class, the alarms go off, right? Meaning the fire alarms. No one's really sure what is exactly happening, right? If you go back, the towers were bombed at one point in time or earlier, but they were in the basement, right? It happened it was a bomb in the basement. I don't think anyone expected the way it played out that day. It's why it was a surprise that it was. And so they said, hey, all right, fire alarm, fire drill, head on down the steps. There were 3 sets of stairs in each building. So started walking down, probably got 5, 10, 15-ish flights, give or take, to be honest. You kind of heard the intercom, hey, go back to your desk. And some people did. I think people who had been working there, like veterans, long timers, I'm annoyed by the alarm and why am I walking down all these steps? As a young kid, I kept going, just naive and not knowing what to do. I kept going. So as I was walking down the flights, to get to your question, not sure, just chatting with people in the stairwell, getting down into around those 40s, it all became very real or surreal, meaning you felt it. It got hit. It did one of these, meaning the building swayed, and you could feel it sway. And that's when, you knew something was wrong. Again, not 100% sure what was wrong,
right,
but you knew something was wrong. And there was definitely some panic from some people. And you kind of kept walking down and walking down and walking down. And that building got hit at 9:03. I think it probably took about 40 plus minutes to go the 61 flights of stairs with all the people. And you really became hyper aware of what was happening, meaning this is bad and this is very, very real. When you got down into that, 10 and below, right? Because you did notice, there were some fractures on the walls, meaning hey, because of the power of that.
Sure.
And then more importantly, and this is the thing, looking back over the time as I've had to reflect on that experience, is you saw the firemen and the policemen going up. And I'm going this way, they're going this way, with a very real look on their face. And walking out, and if anyone had ever been there before, right, massive lobbies, just huge. Right. Walking out and walking in there, and the police and the firemen are directing you where to go and exit the building. And it was kind of a mess because of the elevator shafts and the power of the fire and explosion. And they're saying, hey, get out here. And then it really kind of hit home when you walked out those doors. You see people standing around. You get out and you kind of look around, on the ground, and you can see the debris. But more importantly, you do this, right? You look up and you're like, oh, this is real.
This is bad.
Yeah. And really bad. And again, it's really, I think it's easier now for us to think about it. And what I mean is not like the actual event, but that type of an event happening, right? We live in a different world. We see much more. We're very aware. I was telling this story to someone else the other day who had asked about it. And it's like, there was, that was flip phones.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. Flip phones. There was no Twitter or X. There was no social media.
No.
There was no, right? You weren't getting fancy pictures on your phone, right?
No.
It was, I'm dating myself, but that's what it was. So,
you had a flip phone. Yep. If you were high tech, you had a brick phone. You had the Zach Morris brick phone.
It was, the little Nokia or whatever it was. There were still pay phones, right?
Right. I remember what those were too.
Yeah. And you walked out, and I looked up, and you just realized this is not good. And anyone who's watched the documentary or read books, and,
sure.
I've tried to introduce some of this to my kids now. You saw what you saw, and realized why am I don't want to stick around. I just don't want to do it. So me and a few other people, one who I had known for a really long time, and a few other people I didn't really know, but we were all up in the Midtown area, and we just started walking. And it was like, the movie you might see on TV where, you're walking out down the street, and I hadn't been in New York that long, but, cars are stopped everywhere. Doors are open, radios are on. Nothing is happening, like nothing. All you hear is alarm, right? Like the fire trucks and those types of sirens and all those things. And you just keep walking. And then it probably, because it was at 9:03 it happened, and however long to get down. And then by the time I'd gotten out of there, you heard like the with terrible sound effect, but meaning like
we won't ding you for that.
You could probably put something better. It was the building coming down.
Yeah.
And you look back and you can hear it and you can kind of see it, more the cloud of smoke. And you're just like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like,
doesn't really register.
No, what is going on? And that's when the fact that you did have a phone, and honestly, I think all I had was what it was in my pockets.
Sure.
Everything else kind of got left in the building. And I think I had a phone, but nothing worked, because what you then found out is the cell towers were on top of the building. They were the largest buildings in New York, right? Like, you're going to put them on the top there. So cell service that people did have didn't exist anymore.
Right.
So then you start stacking up like people at payphones. I mean, like literally people deep waiting for a payphone. And again, trying to explain this to my kids would be like,
you had to walk up to a phone that was mounted to a wall
and put a quarter in it. And it was connected.
It didn't take a credit card, nothing like that. You couldn't scan your phone to get the phone. No.
And I kept walking and walked all the way back to Midtown.
Wow.
And for me, right, it's all surreal at that point.
Sure.
You had no idea.
It's a surreal kind of out of body, out of mind experience, because it is so different than anything that you've known or experienced that your brain's just overloaded.
Yep. I grew up in Alliance, Ohio.
Slightly different.
Yeah. I was a small town kid. My parents were both teachers. We took one summer trip every year to Hilton Head, South Carolina. We drove, I think, up until I was about 18. I had been on a plane a couple times. And that was, wonderful family, wonderful parents, but that's how I grew up, right? Sure. And you get there and it's totally different. And then that experience happens. And, I've had plenty of time to reflect on all of those things and tell the story. And, probably for a long time, I didn't talk much about it. When we moved west and didn't tell people, there was somebody who actually pinged me a while back, I think after we did the first podcast or something of that nature, and said, like, I didn't know you were there. And he and I worked together for a really long time. And I didn't tell it, not that it was like some personal issue. I just didn't think anyone cared. Right. But more so and more so, like what I started to take away and think about it, and really the last probably, 3, 4, 5 years is like some of those key pieces of it. As a parent now, I have a 9 and a 6-year-old, when I called my parents on the other end, and back to that piece, they pulled them both out of school. They were teachers, right? Again, there was no text message. There was no instant news, ticker.
Right.
Somebody walked down and got them out of the classroom and said, hey, because they were teachers and I went through that district, they knew me. Everyone, kind of knew me. They're like, hey, Adam was in New York, right? And he's in this building, right? You need to come down here, right? And
yikes.
I mean, looking back now of all those things that happened, I think most about that 3-hour time window. And as a parent now, my mom and dad probably not knowing.
Right. Is he alive? Is he dead? Is he at the bottom of the building? Is he safe? Where is he?
And calling them on the other line and hearing my mom pick up and the tears and the crying. And I know I've said it a few times, but as a parent now, like I can't imagine.
Right.
Like I really struggle to understand that. And, that the actual experience of visually watching it, that emotional experience of my parents and all those things is kind of what I've tried to unpack and really and maybe we'll touch on this, is kind of how I changed my life, right? It was my inflection point.
We're going there. So you took from there, you took an Amtrak, as glamorous as that sounds.
That's 12 hours or something
as the finance bro is redeciding his life choices. He is now on an Amtrak back to Ohio, which I know Alliance has an Amtrak station, doesn't it?
I got off in Pittsburgh, but they do.
Oh yeah. So there is and I'm sure that was packed because that was like the only thing moving for like a week. So you take that, you say, hey, maybe the finance bro life isn't all it's cracked up to be. I know there's a number of things in there. So Journey Wealth is where you're at now. Give me the 30 seconds between then and now.
Sure.
Give me a 30-second rundown of that.
Yep. Got back, took a few weeks off, went back to that job for a little while, knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. You know, ironically looking back, it still took a little bit to understand that, but decided, hey, this isn't for me. And probably one of the key components of that was my wife now, girlfriend actually at the time, probably 5-6 months after I got home was like, for lack of a better term, she said, you need to make a choice. You need to get yourself together. Meaning if you don't, I'm not going to be around.
Right.
And I did, right? I made the choice like, okay, I need to figure this out. Ended up getting another job, applied and went back to grad school for my MBA. She was actually running at the time. I was probably like 210, could eat $20 at a Wendy's menu, could still have plenty of beers.
Taco Bell value menu was your
put
friend.
Down $20 of the Wendy's menu. And I started running. And
we're going to dive into that into a second. So don't go too far into that. So skip that because we're going to jump in there.
Yeah, the health aspect became important to me. The personal growth became important to me, meaning started adopting many of those things. And was with my wife. Things were, I was personally improving, or at least I felt I was improving enough that we were growing in terms of personal growth. Then she is a physician and had to go through match. We said, hey, it's time for us to just we need to go and get out of here for a bit, just personally grow. She matched in Arizona. We moved to Scottsdale for about 15 years. I worked for Vanguard while I was out there, pursuing, many different things. We traveled, we did a lot, but started to have our kids. Had a tremendous amount of fun in terms of just, growing personally and seeing the world and trying a lot of stuff. And I started to ask a lot of questions in my own life about, how many summers, meaning how long do I have to enjoy with my family? How long do I have to enjoy with my wife's family? My kids are young at this point in time. My parents were coming to visit, her parents were coming to visit, friends, but it wasn't long, right?
Right.
Well, then maybe it's time, meaning it was time to move back to Ohio. So ended up moving back to Ohio here so we could be a part of our community that we grew up in, we were raised in. And then again, through personal decision-making said, hey, it's time for me to pivot. How can I help people, live their best life like I felt I was living? And that's how I ended up at Journey. It's probably like a minute, 30 seconds.
You're making this super easy because my next thing is so with Journey, it's a wealth management firm. I mean, through and through, that's what it is. But to me, in watching the podcast I sit right back there and watch all of your podcasts. It's not just about making money. It's about making lives. Is that an accurate statement? Because I always see, I've heard you guys talk about the people that say, hey, look, when I get to 10 million, I'll do this. And you're like, what happens at 10 million besides a number? You guys seem to dive into what does 10 million mean? Besides a number, is that the focus, and is that what makes Journey so different?
Yes. And what I mean by that is absolutely right. I've spent a long time in that finance world. When you think about financial advice, it often does anchor to a number. I want to get to 62. I want to have this amount of money so I can retire, and then I'll figure the rest out. great. I mean, that's a part of it.
Right.
But what about that time frame from whenever you started working to 62 and then after? And I could cite, you've heard me rattle on about statistics, and I'm happy to cite any of them. But what we want to do is help people live their best life that their health and wealth make possible, meaning all of those tie together. So as a financial firm, we really anchor to 4 key pillars of wellness: financial, spiritual, mental, and physical. Most of the time, I think both individuals and some other firms tend to anchor to financial wellness, right? That's the key piece of it.
Sure.
What we want to do is help people understand that across those 4 pillars, they are not separate, meaning there's no wall between them and you can't connect. They all connect in a lot of different ways. And I serve on a unique space at that firm, both as a personal executive type coach, head of wellness, and trying to connect those dots together. And what I mean is, whether I'm coaching someone or in our own financial planning process, one of the key pieces we start with is, what do you want your life to look like? And the sooner you start to think about that, the sooner you can put together what that fulfilled, best life is across those 4 pillars.
It's interesting you talk about that, because I was sitting down with a doctor yesterday, and her and I were talking about some of this stuff and health and people having goals for like age 62 or age 65. And she's like, so many people are like, I want to be this at this age, which is a great goal. That doesn't account for the bus. That doesn't account for the drunk driver. That doesn't account for all these other things. So don't wait. Enjoy some of it now too, while you can. It's interesting that you bring up stats, because I'm going to bring up a few stats here too. And I don't know if you looked over and saw these or not, but the Burning River 50 miler, July 29th of this past year, you were overall 22nd. You ranked in the top 72%. The Javelina Jundred 100 miler. Now, for those of you that aren't paying attention, I'm talking about running. This is running. That was 2018. Mm-hmm. You ranked in the top 58% of that. That's a 100-mile run. And the quote that you gave me before was, your girlfriend, now wife, took you for a run. We did 2 miles and it felt awful, but I decided to do it again. And yet now you have a Forrest Gump-like approach to running, it seems like. Why? This is the big question. I always like to ask this of people that do endurance things, or just people that take on hard things. Why?
Why not?
I love the answer, but give me something more to it.
100%, yeah. Well, to harken back to that 2-mile run, honestly, it was like if she was sitting across from here, she would be like, "Yeah." He just kept asking, like, "How far did we go? How far did we go? Like, has it been an hour?" And I was in terrible shape. Like,
we all start somewhere, and we've all done that. Anyone that has started running has been like, "I just ran 200 miles." Oh no, it was half a mile.
Yeah. And it started there. She kind of pushed me into it. She says now a lot, like, she introduced the craziness into my own head. And it was probably there, right? But
she unlocked it.
Yeah. So I started running. I was out one day. We lived on Cedar Road-ish, give or take, right in the community. I went to John Carroll for my undergrad and grad degree. So we lived right around that area afterwards too. And I was out running, and I had started to go on my own. I think I was wearing like remember the old MP3? I think Nike made one with a strap on the shoulder, and your headphones are connected and all.
Yeah, the cord's constantly beaching you. Yeah.
And I was working, and at that time, no kids, right? So I often would just run after work or into the evening. I think may have been during grad school. And I was out running, and I recognized someone, a gentleman by the name of Brian Fulkowski. He was a left tackle at John Carroll, All-American, and a bigger dude. When I say it, like, he played left tackle like 305, like he was huge and really good. very strong. But it was like not him, meaning like 100 pounds was missing when I saw him.
Where's the rest of you?
In a good way, yeah. And he had biked across the United States, and he was running, and I ran into him, and we reconnected. We were friends in college, but you just drift a little bit here and there. But I would see him out and about, but I hadn't seen him in a while because of that ride. And he was like, hey, we kind of like, caught up for a bit. And then he said, hey, I'm running this half marathon in West Virginia. Would you want to do it? I'm like, sure, I guess. I had no idea what you're getting into. Decided to do it, ended up running it, wore a pair of the Nike Shocks, if you remember those things. Remember those things? They had like an actual shock in them. Don't think they worked. But
they looked cool.
Yeah, at least that's what I thought. Ran that race and like it snowballed. Like he had a bike and somehow we kept running. We did the Chicago Marathon actually together. Bought a bike. He and one other guy, we started riding bikes. Signed up for my first triathlon. It was an absolute disaster. It was like the old Alliance triathlon they have. It's Carnation City.
Yeah.
So they had like this Carnation triathlon and you swam in West Branch Lake, if I remember correctly. I was the last one in there. I had to do the backstroke. I couldn't swim. They were like, kind of like, hey, you want to grab onto the boat?
Are you drowning?
So we can get out of here. Made it out. And this was like a 500-meter swim, so it wasn't that far. Maybe 1,000 something minimal.
It felt like the 2-mile run, though.
It was embarrassing. Got on the bike, finished the bike. I could always run at that point. Ran. And it was that. It was like, yeah, it wasn't fun at parts. You wanted to quit, but you didn't. You just kept going. And it was a little bit of this. Got to Arizona, signed up for a half. We ran a marathon, did a half Ironman. Half Ironman turned into an Ironman. Ironman turned into mountain bike racing and, those 12 or 24-hour ones. And, did 4 or 5 Ironmans and then said, what else?
Right. What's next?
Climbed Mount Rainier one year with Brian, actually. It was kind of like what else, right? There was a certain level of addiction to it, probably. Sure. And, I hope to think it was in a positive way. But it was that. And it turned out all of those things were such, like created that resiliency, created that getting you out of your comfort zone. But what I often found was they were the best training grounds for life.
Sure.
And I always tell people like the 100-mile run is probably the best analogy for life in a 24-hour span.
And most of us will never experience that.
We experience it in our own ways, right? Like there are ways to experience it, but it's that, right? The ups and downs, the emotions, the people you need around to support you. You don't do it yourself. All the preparation and preparing for something, and then using all that to get through whatever that day looks like.
That makes sense. So you guys started the podcast. To me, the podcast that you guys are doing is very much about, first off, the education for the people that you work with and your education, it seems like, because the number of stats that you have on paper and in your head when you sit down with people is insane. You're like a Rolodex. I just dated myself there. A Rolodex of stats like that. What has been your favorite part of being in the studio so far?
The conversation, absolutely, 100%. The chance, I was an avid podcast listener.
Sure.
Back to the running and the biking piece.
Yep.
Right, training for Ironman.
Had to do something.
Right, like I love music, but you could only listen to so much music. And I remember finding podcasts back in the day. We were actually just touching on like the first season of Serial was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And started listening. And you just found this new world to provide you information, expertise, and to bring these unique conversations that you weren't having, but you were a part of.
Right.
Right. They're in your ear. And, when you're out pounding the pavement, meaning just running for a while or out riding your bike for 4 or 5 hours, one, it can be boring. And two, it's an opportunity. And I know what we say about mass multitasking and all those things, but it was an opportunity to gain insight and information and learn while you were doing something you actually loved. And that's kind of what brought me here. I think to your point, it's a chance to deliver insight and expertise to our audience. And selfishly, it's a chance for me to get to talk to just wonderful people, let them tell their story. And hopefully what that does is opens the door for them to spread their knowledge and insight and help others.
So with that, you've got this, I mean, you're always looking to be like, I mean, as soon as we hit stop on the recording, you're like, okay, what can I do better? What needs to be better? What has been the one change that you've made that you feel's made you a better host?
I think it's a great question. And I know what they say when you're not supposed to say every question's a great question.
I'm okay with it. I mean, we had a podcast guest before who said, I would rather have 10 great questions than one good answer.
That's good.
Yeah.
Being comfortable with what I'm saying. And what I mean by that is, to your point, yeah, I do ask after everyone.
Yeah.
And I do want to get, the atomic habits, compounding interest, 1% better, small wins, however you want to think about it. But it's just being comfortable in what I am saying, and that I have something to bring to the conversation, and hopefully enough that I can use that to unlock the potential sitting across from me, meaning they're all amazing humans.
Yes.
They're all amazing people. They do really impactful things. Can I help them translate that into the ether?
Makes sense. I love that. So knowing this, I'm going to give you a couple of, as we kind of wind down, some short answer questions. I know you love to learn. What is a book recommendation that you'd give to anyone? I know you say The Comfort Crisis is one of your favorite books. Is that it?
It's a great one. Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning is wonderful. The Choice by Edith Edgar is incredible. Die with Zero, Lives in Our Financial World is another wonderful book.
Okay. Any one of those is the top
great.
choice.
Yeah.
So what's your next book? What's the next one you're going to read?
If you saw my front porch and what my wife would see, it's just a constant steady stream of books that get dropped off. I am reading a recent updated translation of Epictetus right now. Rereading Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning at the same time. And then I usually have one book on tape right? Audible going on also.
So in a previous life, were you a truck driver that listened to books on tape?
Yes. I know you're not supposed to multitask, but I do try to do it.
I get it. So I know you said you love music. Mm-hmm. Do you play an instrument?
I tried in high school.
What did you try?
The guitar, a little bit. It was okay.
Didn't go well.
No.
So you don't play anything currently?
I do not. Records. I play records.
So I'm going to put you, this is really, these last two questions are going to be huge. What is the best rock album of all times? You got to pick one. You have to pick one.
Well, this is all because of my dad. My dad was a, 60s, 70s, classic rock, music in general.
Yep.
He used to pull his records up from the basement. I have two of them framed on our wall in our house. Oh man, just as a kid of the 90s, right?
You have to pick one rock album.
Don't do this to me.
I knew this would be the toughest question that I could ever ask you.
Can I give three?
You got to pick one. It can change next week.
I love Definitely Maybe by Oasis. I saw them live growing up. I mean, I don't think people realize how big they were.
No, I get it. No, they were. And I mean, just the fact that they were like every other brothered rock band like that they just couldn't get along, destroyed them.
Yeah.
And destroyed something that could have been so much more amazing than it was.
they played at Nebworth back to back in front of 400,000 people.
Correct.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
I mean, that album, I mean, I could say, I was
So
fortunate.
that's the one.
Right now, I'm on a big Oasis kick, so I'll go with that for now. Probably not the greatest of all time by any means. We could have that whole debate, but for me right now, that's it.
All day long, we can have that debate.
Yep.
So the next thing that I have to ask is every single time it comes on, what's a band that you're going to hit skip?
Oof. A lot of stuff now. Like not a fan.
This is how we know we're getting old.
Yes.
Is when anything in the last 10 years we're like, nah.
I mean, I do like some of it, but man, some of it is.
It's okay to go with Nickelback.
Well, that's is that like a meme at this point?
We could be, yeah.
I'm still a radio guy, meaning Sirius.
Yeah.
Like I love Sirius.
So you'll sit through it. You'll suffer through it.
I love the DJ stories. Like I was,
I get it.
like I was sad when Dusty Street passed away not that long ago, I believe, and
I love it.
You know, like I took a little sabbatical between jobs, and we did the classic. We went to the Rock Hall,
Sure,
and we walked around, and like, there's just something about music. I'm sure it's the nostalgia, it's my youth, but also my family. And
there's so many things connected with it.
The 90s was like, you know, people will argue, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, the decade that everyone was in junior high and high school was the best decade ever for music. That's it. Because it was such an influential part of our lives.
Well, what's really amazing, right? Like, is the catalogs that are selling right now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that's private equity money, but like what's crazy is if you look at like the Spotify stream data, it's not the new stuff, right? No. Taylor Swift, of course, and you know, a few others, but it's the old stuff, right? Yep. Like I think Springsteen sold his catalog for like 400 million. Dylan sold for like 300 plus.
Yep.
So there's something there, right? Like I don't know,
but there was something there 20 years ago, just sold on different markets.
Yes, right.
So it's that nostalgia because our age group now has enough money that we can throw some money at stuff like that, and we're going to do it.
Yes, but yeah, I could, you know, we could sit and talk about this for hours. I'm kind of depressed about my answers on the music stuff already, so
it's okay. It's okay.
I'm embarrassed.
That being said, where would be the best place for people to find you at?
Yeah. To find us at Journey Wealth, you would just go journeywealth.com. I do have a LinkedIn page. I don't love social media as much as I should as a marketing person.
We both do LinkedIn well.
Yes, but we can talk about all the bad things about social media. You can find me at Adam Bruderly on LinkedIn. I do post a lot of the content and resources out there. Our podcast is called The Journey Podcast on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Journey Wealth, we publish a lot out there. And that's where you can find a lot of our stuff.
Perfect. Well, everyone, this has been a great conversation, a lot of fun. We talked about some very serious stuff, and then we talked about some not so serious stuff. I will make sure that all their information is in the show notes. Do yourself a favor, take care of yourself, and if you can, someone else. I will see you all very soon.